Welcome to Kudos AMPM, a podcast exploring the future and impact of design innovation as they intersect with technology, art, and business. I'm your host, John Kudos. I'm going to chat with Pinot and Dita, my dear friends who, like me, started their creative journey all the way from Indonesia and ended up right here in New York City. Pinot is a hybrid artist whose work includes a lot of things, from hand-drawn work and computer animation, illustrations, watercolor paintings, videography, and old-school technology. He's done independent work for Childish Gambino and Into the Spider-Verse, and client-commissioned work like Stranger Things for Netflix, Mr. Robot for USA Network, Coca-Cola, Samsung, Google Chrome, Apple, Microsoft, and many more. Dita is a surface pattern designer who has worked with many major brands like Keen, Shutterfly, Dominic Ansel. In Indonesia, she's worked with Disney Plus, Sari Ayu, and Biore. Okay, and that's just the short version of that list. Before we start, I'd like to mention that the podcast format today will be slightly different. This is because Pinot had a major stroke in December 2022, which left him almost completely paralyzed. He's been in this miraculous journey of recovery, and I have been a witness of that firsthand. You will hear a good bit of Indonesian in the mix to keep our conversation flowing naturally. I highly recommend that you watch the video with subtitles on.
So, Pinot, Dita.
Now you are allowed to laugh.
Yeah, we start with a laugh, and we're probably going to keep laughing all day. Thank you for having me in your wonderful home in Bayside, Queens.
Thank you, and thank you for having us. AMPM Kudos.
When I was preparing for this conversation, I think I was asking a few people who know about you and your work. Everybody is wondering about the cool names that you have.
So you want to know the origin of Pinot?
Pinot, yes.
Yeah, Pinot, not Pinot.
Because that's not even your real name. It doesn't even sound like your real name. So how did that come about?
Okay, it was from his mom. Yeah, it's just like a nickname, right? Yeah. I think it's from radio lokal Surabaya. Okay. It's about Sandiwara Boneka. Namanya Pinot.
One of the Sandiwara radio.
Yeah.
Okay. That's Indonesian radio show.
Yeah, Indonesian radio show.
Is that where you're from, Surabaya?
Yeah. He was born in Surabaya.
It's such an interesting name, right? I think people here think about Pinot as wine. Which is, I guess it's a good coincidence.
Yeah, funny thing, his life, I think, leads to grapes, wines, right? Gary Vaynerchuk itu kan pengusaha wine. And then dia famous karena wine. Semua tuh connect ke anggur, ke wine. Agency pertama yang hire dia namanya Grape Story.
Grape Story.
Yes. Funny,
so you don't think it's a coincidence that you got hired? That's awesome. I'm going to name my kid something funny. Now, I don't know how many people actually know about this, but you're related to Dwi Kundoro. Yeah. He is the creator of Panji Koming, right? This is the political comic shorts that's been published weekly on Kompas newspaper.
Yes, every Sunday.
Every Sunday. So I grew up with that. I was reading Kompas when I was a kid. Not. I didn't read that much, but the comics, of course, it's easy, right? So that's why it stood out to me, and I remember that. Today, you continue to actually work on Panji Koming, right?
Since 2021. Pinot and his brother Iwan and Dono continue Marhum Padeka works, Panji Koming. every week, right? Sunday, every Sunday. Ya, tapi sejak Pinot sakit, jadi sekarang cuma dikerjain sama Iwan sama Dono.
Yeah, I can't imagine how you do it. Doing it every week. So
Yeah.
and it's so interesting that you continue to do the work that
Yeah.
your father started. It's so interesting for me. So I don't know if you. I mean, you and Pinot was in the same room with me 7 years ago in SVA Theater. I don't know if you remember this. This is the first time I actually met you, and we were on the stage at the Indonesian Film Festival
Yeah.
in New York. And there was a moment when, shockingly, Neo, your son, was called up to the stage.
Mhm.
Hey, Neo.
I love that so much.
Yeah, so Neo got invited to the stage and ended up sitting next to you the entire time we were talking on the stage.
Yeah.
It was so funny. It was your birthday, right?
I don't remember.
We were singing a birthday song. I remember this clearly. You also have your sisters today, so say hi, sisters, Arwen and Leia. You guys are amazing crew. You know that, right? Now, I think when I was thinking about what to talk about today, most people want to know how you started your journey, your creative journey. How did you end up in New York?
I think itu bukan mimpi kita ya, end up in New York. Pertama kali keluar dari Indonesia, itu cuma buat for the sake of adventure aja. Itu pengen keluar dari Indonesia, pengen masa depan yang lebih baik buat anak-anak, supaya anak-anak ini terpapar pergaulan internasional, supaya bisa jadi warga dunia.
So in the spirit of, I guess, global citizenship,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
For the next generation,
Yeah.
you're really thinking about let's relocate and
Yeah.
actually be a global citizen.
Yeah.
What were you doing before you left Indonesia?
I was a producer in local TV in Jakarta.
So these are big TV networks
Yeah,
in Indonesia
yeah.
back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we got married. Setelah married itu aku jadi freelance.
Okay, so you decided to one of you stays in broadcasting and the other not.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I prefer to be a freelancer. And then and that time juga aku start exploring food photography. Aku banyak fokus sebagai food blogger sampai akhirnya bisa publish 2 buku tentang food photography di Indonesia. Kemudian salah satu teman Baptin itu ada yang dapat tawaran pekerjaan di TV Kuwait. Pertama kali Eman ke sana dan diterima kerja di TV Kuwait. Ternyata mereka membutuhkan banyak kru TV. Waktu Pinot ditawarin, dia pulang-pulang tuh udah malam kan ya. Biasalah kerja di TV kan pulangnya pasti malam tuh. Buka pintu, aku lagi nonton TV kan. Pas lagi nonton TV, dia buka pintu, terus tau-tau gini, mau nggak pindah ke Kuwait? Gitu kan. Terus aku gini, hayu. Terus dia pusing. Hah? Kok jawabannya enteng banget gitu kan. Itu kan kayak our wish tuh langsung
Okay.
Langsung dikabulin gitu kan.
Yeah.
Kayak our wish kan kita kan mau keluar dari Indonesia. Ini kayak bisa jadi batu loncatan kalau kita mau melangkah lebih jauh lagi. Mungkin latihannya harus di Middle East dulu.
Okay.
Gitu kan.
So how did you end up arriving in New York from Kuwait?
Jadi kita sampailah di Kuwait kan ya. Sampai di Kuwait, oke. Pertama kali yang dilihat adalah nggak ada hijau-hijau ya. Semua padang pasir. Coklat semua.
It's all sands and no
Iya
greens.
kan?
Okay.
No greens. And then yang pertama datang kan Pinot duluan kan. Belum boleh bawa family. Pinot datang duluan, kondisinya lagi summer, ngelihat kayak gitu, langsung kayak, wah pengen balik lagi gitu. Karena kayak nggak homey. Iya kan, ngelihat panas banget bisa sampai 50 derajat Celcius. Mungkin 3 bulan pertama sebelum family datang itu ya cukup berat juga sih ya buat Pinot ya. Jadi ya gitu sampai akhirnya kita semua berangkat ke sana, terus udah winter ya, udah lebih nyaman lah udaranya dan kita berusaha enjoy. Tapi semakin berjalannya waktu, kok bosen ya? Nggak ada apa-apa gitu. Kita mau bikin art aja, mau bikin kerajinan tangan, mau beli watercolor, mau beli peralatan gambar tuh nggak ada yang jual. Kita harus find our way supaya nggak bosen. Jadi nyari apa aja. Makanya kita dulu punya blog art and craft. Bikin art and craft dengan anak-anak. Nah itu pertama kalinya orang-orang mulai kenal kita dari blog itu. Karena kita suka posting art and craft yang bisa dibikin bareng-bareng sama keluarga. Gitu, dengan memanfaatkan barang-barang yang ada. Sampai akhirnya tiba-tiba Vine muncul ya. Vine muncul tahun berapa? 11. 13. 2013 itu waktunya hampir overlapping dengan pada saat aku bikin cake shop.
Okay.
Jadi-
Yeah, Vine. I remember Vine.
Iya,
Yeah.
Vine app.
It didn't last that long, but
Yeah.
the format was really interesting, right?
Iya,
Short form
only
content.
6 seconds.
Yeah.
Iya. Buat
So
Pino,
you're saying that was like a thing that you really embrace as a format?
iya, buat Pinot itu format yang menurut dia cocok. Karena dia bilang, saya pemalas. Gitu. Saya nggak mau bikin video animasi panjang-panjang. So 6 seconds itu perfect. Jadi di situ dia tuh kayak menemukan playground baru. Benar-benar eksplorasi di situ.
Yeah.
Dan akhirnya makanya dia mulai terekspos dengan internasional itu di gara-gara Vine itu. Dari situlah akhirnya ada tawaran dari New York untuk bekerja remote dari Grape Story ini. Grape Story ini agensinya dulu milik adiknya Gary ya, A.G. Vaynerchuk. Dia join dengan salah satu viner namanya Jerome Jarre. Nah, dia juga viner terkenal dari Prancis. Mereka bikin company base di New York, terus ngerekrut talent-talent Vine. Pada saat itu talent Vine aja yang direkrut ya, dari seluruh dunia. Jadi hari-hari di Kuwait itu jadi tidak membosankan. Setelah 5 tahun berlalu, kita mulai mikir, kayak kita perlu nambah pinter deh.
It wasn't enough.
No.
You wanted to be smarter, more challenged.
So, kita nyoba cari kesempatan-kesempatan itu, semuanya kita coba kontak ya dengan networking baru dari Vine-nya Pinot. Kita coba connect ke Twitter London, terus Twitter Amerika tuh waktu itu di SF ya. Akhirnya sama Twitter London kita punya hubungan baik karena dia akhirnya juga diundang ke Twitter London untuk waktu itu ngomongin Vine juga ya. Terus dari situ ya udah yang ada di pikiran kita adalah wah, koneksi ke UK udah terbuka nih gitu. Kayaknya ini aja nih yang kita jajaki kan. Sama pernah ada tawaran juga akhirnya dari Twitter San Francisco. Coba apply juga. Tapi ternyata Pinotnya overqualified, jadi nggak sesuai lah dengan
There's such thing for content creator, overqualified content creator.
Jadi nggak bisa. Jadi kesempatan ke Twitter San Francisco nggak bisa. Ke London juga kayaknya nggak maju-maju nih. Terus one day aku bilang ke dia gitu, kenapa kamu nggak tanya langsung ke agensi yang di New York yang sekarang hire dia remote itu? Mungkin nggak kerja langsung di New York. Nanya kan nggak salah ya. Tanya aja.
Yeah, nothing to lose.
Ya, akhirnya dia tanya dan langsung dijawab, oke, kita akan urus relokasi kamu. Kan kaget.
Oh, God. You guys are so lucky.
And then dia kaget, dia panik kan. Ya kayak waktu aku jawab, hayo jalan gitu kan. Ini sama agensinya langsung diajuin.
There's so many interesting things about that. You're not even in New York yet at that time, right?
Iya, Bang. Interestingnya adalah kita nggak pernah punya plan, John.
You
Our
never
life
had a
itu,
plan.
yes, our life itu nggak pernah di plan. Jadi beneran yang kayak kita jalanin aja. Kita jalanin, ada opportunity kita ambil gitu. I think intinya nekat sih. Kita berdua nih orang yang nekat.
All right. First part of this podcast, just go for it.
Yeah.
Fight. I think it's not just that. I think you went for an opportunity that can take you further.
Yeah.
And you really, I mean, this is my observation. You treat it quite as a stepping stone in many ways, right? But you have to make that jump, not knowing what's on the other side. But you jump over that river anyway, right?
Yeah.
And then you realize that that's not really for you. But what's interesting to me is, you know, the media, the platform, you know, all the startups happening around that time, right? New platforms, and somehow you found that one platform that you really feel comfortable working in. But also it's challenging because creating anything 6 seconds and making it really interesting, it's really challenging, right?
Yeah.
But I know from just my day-to-day work, creating a 6-second animation when you're animating like frame by frame, that's still a lot of work.
Yeah.
If you're shooting a video 6 seconds short, that's easy, right? But if frame by frame animation, which is a lot of the work that you guys are doing, you know, it's still challenging.
Yeah.
So I think, in other words, you're saying that that's when you actually found the platform, right? And then also that platform exposed you to a lot of the opportunities and even followers, right? People who like your work and start following you. And it's really amazing. It's really amazing how you ended up in New York just by asking the question, right? Can I do this? Can I do this in New York now?
Yes. Just a simple question.
Yeah. But I mean, no one will just say yes to that, right? I think it's just, I think you've been working, doing some work with the company for a while, right? And then they have trust in you. I think that's what makes it work.
Yeah.
And in many ways, I find New York to be in a similar way, you know, it's very open, a lot of opportunities, right? But also, like, people don't expect you to pay back, but like if you can do it, they get you in, right?
Yeah.
So that's what's interesting about New York.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm wondering, would you call New York your home at this point?
Right now, yeah. Yeah kan, Babit? Right? You know, you can feel the vibes, right? Buat creative field, itu kayaknya tempat ini cocok buat kita. Gitu, kayak energinya dapet.
The creative energy is there.
The creative energy sama kalau kita mau eksplorasi, eksperimen macam-macam, terfasilitasi. Tapi kebalikannya dari Kuwait, pada saat kita tinggal di Kuwait, kita harus membuka mata kita lebar-lebar. Di New York, kita harus bisa memicingkan mata karena overwhelming dengan segala energinya ini. Overwhelming dengan stimulasi semuanya. Vision, terus pendengaran, semuanya. Perasaan, semuanya terstimulate gitu loh.
Yeah, would you say that experience and training in quiet, right? Being able to open your eyes as wide as possible prepares you to be in New York in many ways, right?
Yeah.
Because now you're here, you were able to find things by, you know, searching far and wide, and now you actually can find anything in New York.
Yeah.
You can do anything in New York. Then now you really have to really focus on what should I be making now, because I'm already here.
Yeah.
It's a good message, you know, because I think a lot of people find the energy from New York City, you know, the same way. There's something that attracts you to be here, but also it's very challenging to be in New York, to stay and like be part of it. You know, it's like you kind of have to be always doing something, always on top of what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's only part one. So,
Papin bilang nih, NYC is not easy, it's not comfortable, but it's there, you can feel it.
New York City is not easy. Yeah,
it's not easy.
It's not the most comfortable.
Yeah,
right?
It's not always comfortable.
Yeah, but I find that for me at least, right, it gives me the challenging situation or environment that
Yeah.
I feel like I need to be able to stand up to.
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Let's talk about some of the work that I think maybe a lot of the audiences on the web are more familiar with, like the animation you did for This Is America,
Yeah,
Childish
yeah, yeah,
Gambino, right? If I remember correctly, you did it because you think it's really fun and you just did it, and then the next thing you know is it got picked up by Donald Glover himself, and then he was actually playing on his concert.
Not his concert, tapi konsernya Fatboy Slim.
Fatboy Slim
Yeah,
concert.
yeah.
Okay, so I mean, this is just one example because I can name a few other projects that you've done, sometimes yourself, sometimes as a family,
Yeah.
right? That gets picked up. Like people just found the work to be so engaging. I think another one is the Into the Spider-Verse, right?
Yeah,
That's like a family project.
Yes.
You guys did it together as a
Yeah.
family.
yeah. Yeah.
And
and-
I want to hear more a little bit when we talk about some of the details of like what did you actually do? Like why did you even do it? It's like yes, it got picked up, but I think a
Yeah.
lot of people are also wondering about what makes you think that's the one that you want to do. Like how do you know that it could get picked up eventually?
Oh, kita nggak pernah expect itu bakalan jadi viral, jadi terkenal karena every time kita bikin sebuah artwork atau sebuah karya, kita nggak pernah mikirin ini akan jadi viral, ini akan dinotis oleh misalnya artisnya gitu. Nggak, it's just pure fun.
Pure fun.
Pure fun
Hmm.
for our family gitu. Jadi gimana anak-anak belajar, terutama kenapa kita menyebut diri kita hybrid artist, karena kita selalu memadukan handcrafted things ke our project gitu, DIY things gitu. Mungkin kalau lihat di project Into the Spider-Verse itu banyak banget DIY, kita bikin sendiri rig DIY untuk kamera movement, terus semuanya dibikin frame by frame pakai tangan, digambar tangan, dipotong pakai cutter, semuanya kayak gitu. I guess itu sih yang bikin orang jadi tertarik, wih kerjaan tangan nih gitu,
Right.
not fully digital gitu.
Right.
Yang kerjaan tangan yang mengizinkan kita untuk melakukan kesalahan.
You're
Right.
allowed to make mistakes.
Ya,
Mhm.
jadi kalau kita bikin kesalahan, kita jadi berusaha untuk mencari problem solvingnya gimana gitu untuk mengakali ini gitu kan. Nah, anak-anak juga belajar di situ.
Mhm.
Mereka banyak belajar tentang analog animation juga di situ
Mhm.
gitu.
So you were not doing it for the fans. I think that's what you're saying, right? You were doing this because
For
you
fun.
know it's going to be fun.
Yes.
You're just going to start a project,
Ya,
and it's going to be fun to do as a family.
ya.
Earlier, I think you mentioned that you have a tendency to use old technology.
Ya.
Can you talk a little bit
Yeah.
about that? Like, is there a reason why it's so interesting to you? Why old technology?
Sebenarnya itu buat
Limitation is the key.
limitation. Ya.
Limitation is the key.
Dari old tech itu kan banyak limitation, ya kan. Dan yang pasti supaya anak-anak ini belajar, tidak melulu belajar digital, nggak melulu belajar hal-hal yang instan. Jadi belajar juga sebuah proses. So, jadi mereka tahu prosesnya. Seperti Arwen Leanio ini dari zaman Liquid udah kenal Polaroid, udah kenal fotografi pakai film. Kemudian Pinot juga berusaha memanfaatkan old tech supaya nggak jadi e-waste.
It's really interesting to hear you and Pinot, you type this up, limitation is the key.
Yeah.
I feel the same way because, I studied manual photography. You have to develop the film and then everything becomes easier and easier.
Yeah.
And because it's so easy, people, and, don't get me wrong, I think with new technology, sometimes it opens new possibilities,
yes,
right? But the limitation actually really forces you to really think about what is this idea? Like what's going to make this really interesting when I
Yeah,
make it,
yeah.
right? So I find that to be, I think it's really important, for anyone to learn from the ground up any
Yeah.
creative skills. Is it really just fun that drives you to actually make this project?
Yes.
Just for fun?
Iya kan, Pak Win? Always for fun
Uh,
and exploration.
Fun and exploration.
Iya. Kalau dia selalu bilang untuk jiwa-jiwa lain. Jadi untuk menghibur orang. Cuman buat fun supaya bisa dinikmati orang. Dan bisa dinikmati semua umur, semua kalangan gitu. Karena karya-karya kita harus biasanya emang family friendly. Bisa dinikmati semua. Anak kecil bisa menikmati karya-karya yang kita bikin. Beneran pure fun, dan menurut kami kalau yang dilakukan dengan pure fun, nggak ada tendensi macam-macam, nggak ada expectation macam-macam, itu kayak terasa karya kita tuh kayak pure dari hati.
Are you talking about personal projects, or
Mhm.
are you also applying the same philosophy in commission work?
Kalau commission work tentunya kita harus dealing with client ya. Kita harus
You actually have more limitations sometimes.
Iya. I don't know, mungkin karena klien yang datang ke kita mostly udah tahu kita tuh siapa. Dan kerjaan kita tuh seperti apa. Jadi banyak banget ya klien yang datang tuh laki juga ya. Kita dapat klien yang kayak nggak banyak macam-macam gitu loh, John. Kayak kita emang pilih kamu karena kamu tuh karakternya begini. Kayak gitu. Jadi nggak banyak nyetir. Nggak banyak nyetir kita. Jadi kita dibebasin aja untuk berkreasi, berkarya.
Yeah, they give you the freedom. So,
Iya.
so the same philosophy,
Iya.
joy, fun.
Yeah.
Right? I like what just type here. All tech equals limitation equals
Human.
I love that. Yeah, I think when you mentioned earlier, the mistakes and having to figure out how to correct it is a big part of the outcome.
And old tech new art, yang seperti dia bilang, dengan old tech kita bikin new art.
So I think I remember this. You were like, "Oh, I'm going to a street fair. I'm gonna have a booth. I'm gonna sell my stuff." You mentioned that to me, and I said, "What are you actually making?" So now we have a few things here, and this is just not just a project. You're not making. I don't even know what you call this. You're not making a product line because they're all different.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about what you're actually doing?
Seperti yang udah kita omongin tadi, ini just for fun.
This is just for fun? Okay.
So, kita berdua bukan business person, John. So, apa yang kita lakukan semuanya is for fun. For the sake of exploration. Karena curious, penasaran, pengen tahu, gitu. Jadi, selalu mengesampingkan sisi bisnisnya, gitu kayak sisi bisnisnya nanti bisa datang belakangan lah, gitu kan. Jadi I start sewing itu di tahun 2020. Sebelumnya dari kecil udah terbiasa ngelihat mama menjahit di rumah, terus jahitin baju kita. Jadi sebelumnya juga udah terbiasa bekerja dengan benang. Embroidery, terus kristik, segala macam crochet, itu udah biasa dilakukan. Dini, adikku, sebelum aku belajar jahit, dia keluar dari corporate job-nya setelah 10 tahun untuk mengejar mimpinya belajar fashion. Terinspirasi dari situ, in 2020 aku ingat aku pengen mesin jahit dibeliin sama Papin. Karena ngelihat Dini udah mulai sering jahit, terus lama tuh nggak dipakai, mungkin ada sekitar 3 bulan mesin jahitnya nggak dipakai. Masuk 2020 kayak New Year resolution, aku mau belajar menjahit formal. Jadi aku sign up di the New York Sewing Center Februari 2020. Seminggu kemudian boom COVID. Dan aku pikir ini saat yang tepat untuk eksplorasi menjahit. Jadi tiap hari menjahit. Pertama kali yang aku lakukan itu yang tertarik untuk eksplorasi quilting. Terus eksplorasi collab juga sama dia. Kayak ini patternnya dibikin pinot di Macintosh ya Papin ya? Tandy. Iya, komputer Tandy.
Hmm.
Terus aku wujudkan dalam bentuk quilt baju kayak gini.
So there's something unusual about the form itself, the
Mhm.
shape, and also this doesn't look like a regular material that you would use for clothing.
No, it's like a selimut, right? Like blanket.
Blanket.
Iya.
You use blanket. So okay.
No,
you
it's not.
gotta explain why.
Ini bukan blanket, ini aku bikin satu-satu sendiri. Jadi patternnya dari Pinot bikin di komputer.
So
Dengan
you're
warna-warna ini.
recycling material. So what did you use? For...
Ini enggak. Jadi kalau yang ini aku collab sama Pinot.
Okay.
Kalau yang recycling material, jadi
What's
ini
that? That looks like a cowboy.
ini dari tea towel.
Yeah. So this is a tea towel.
Iya,
Okay.
tea towel serbet. Kalau ini dari taplak old tablecloth. Part of them itu udah robek. Jadi udah di beberapa bagian udah robek, tapi aku ambil bagian yang masih dipakai. Terus di mix and match sama tea towel lain gitu. Kalau ini potongan-potongan dari beberapa project aku yang sisa-sisa bahan.
Leftover materials.
Yes, leftover material dijadiin satu. Karena kalian bisa lihat di sini ini cuma sepotong kecil, right? Ini juga. Jadi semuanya potongan-potongan. Ini dari sarung bantal, dia agak gede makanya.
Yeah. So this just started. You started getting serious when COVID started.
Iya.
You actually learned how to sew properly at that time.
Iya.
And how do you find the materials to create this?
Thrifting.
Thrifting.
Yes. Or pergi ke estate sale.
Estate sales.
Yes. Estate sales.
Yeah.
Jadi banyak yang suka punya sisa, terutama kalau orang yang didatangin itu suka jahit, pasti punya banyak sisa bahan.
Would you consider this a circular fashion? Is that what you're trying to do?
Bisa dibilang gitu. Kayaknya bisa dibilang gitu. Tapi for now, dengan semangat DIY dan repurposing something, terutama fashion ya, karena sejak 2020 aku udah nggak pernah beli baju lagi. Jadi baju-baju itu dijahit sendiri semuanya. Baru memutuskan untuk serius akhirnya menjual apa yang dibikin itu juga baru 2023.
How is it going?
It's good, depend on the crowds ya.
Come on, New York.
Yeah, punya different characteristic of crowd. Depends on the borough.
Oh, different boroughs.
Yes,
in New York,
different
I see.
borough, different crowd. Itu beda taste-nya.
Yeah, I have to confess, my wife bought a few of yours.
Yeah.
I think it's always interesting, and then she also forced me to wear some of them myself.
Yeah, because it's one of a kind, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't find it elsewhere
Yeah.
because it is so boutique,
Yeah.
in what you're doing. Let's talk about this balancing act. Because I think you know what I mean. Like every day as a parent with kids, and also like having to take care of a lot of things at home, but also creating your own work at the same time, right? It's a lot.
Yeah,
But you seem to be doing good, and I think it's still producing work, right? So I want to know, like, is there like a secret sauce, or like how you approach your everyday?
I think key-nya itu ini John, emang doing it for fun, no expectation, gitu. Jadi nggak ada ekspektasi untuk nggak ada deadline, right? Ya kan? Semuanya emang cuman buat seneng-seneng, gitu. Jadi apa? Cuman untuk anak-anak, gitu. Kita tuh gimana ya? Kita tuh nggak nggak pernah. Mungkin emang kita agak lain ya dari orang-orang.
Oh, I know you're different.
Kayak agak lain, hidupnya kayaknya nggak punya planning amat gitu kan. Kayak cuman always doing it for fun, dijalanin aja gitu kan. Nggak ada expect macem-macem, John. Terus karena nggak ada ekspektasi macem-macem, makanya kita untuk balancing dengan situasi yang ada tuh lebih mudah. Karena kan nggak ada ekspektasi ini harus selesai kapan, ini harus begini gitu kan. Yang bisa dikerjain, oke nanti bisa nih dikerjain. Oke nanti bisa nih ditinggal-tinggal. Kayak gitu.
It's like your life is a constant process of just, I want to make something. Yeah, I'm
Iya,
going to
iya.
make something fun now. I'm going to try to do this now.
Iya, I think ini juga karena apa ya? Ya karena pengalaman kita merantau sih.
So if I ask you this cold question, right?
Mhm.
What comes first? Technology, art, business?
Kalau aku art.
Art.
Karena kalau aku pure artis gitu loh, John.
Tina is typing same.
sama.
Actually, no, he's typing family.
Family comes first.
Family and art. It's very unusual. It's very
Yeah.
unusual, because I know a lot of people who's like, I'm an artist, like
Yeah.
I do this because I love to work. But I think what makes your work, your practice every day different is this, you prioritize family. And then yes, you use art, you use old tech, right? Old technology. And then you don't even consider the business part in some ways, right? Because you just jump for it.
Yes.
You don't know what's going on, but let's just do it.
Yeah.
It's so nice, It's so nice to see that there's a living, breathing person, family, doing that, without worrying about business, and actually somehow you're making it,
Yeah.
So here's another cool question for
Yeah.
you. How do you afford this work, this lifestyle that you have now? Like that you're able. I think we agree, and I've been hearing you talk about this all night. That it's all about the joy, it's all about the family, right? How do you afford this to actually be able to continue to do that?
I think ini juga dengan berhubungan sama life philosophy kita juga sih. Jadi apapun yang kita lakukan dari hati buat orang lain, buat jiwa-jiwa lain, semua akan ngikutin. Ini mungkin Indonesia banget ya, kayak rezeki akan ngikutin, gitu loh. Jadi kayak kita tuh nggak forcing diri kita untuk mencari lebih, gitu. Jadi apa yang datang ke kita itu karena kita lakukan dari hati, gitu. Kita lakukan dengan tulus. Orang juga bisa ngerasa relate sama kita, gitu. Jadi karena merasa ya kita juga manusia banget kok, gitu. Yang seperti yang tadi kan bikin mistake, it's okay, gitu. Di artwork kita nggak sempurna, gitu, yang dilakukan bersama anak-anak, it's okay, that's life, gitu. Jadi orang tuh senang karena bisa relate dengan kita, relate dengan kehidupan kita. Pada akhirnya, at the end of the day, semua itu mengikuti, termasuk rezeki, gitu. Rezeki yang datang ke kita juga karena itu, bukan sesuatu yang kita kejar. I know for some people yang mungkin yang mikir bisnis or nggak bisa kan buat bisnis kayak gitu kan, karena kan harus ada plan, harus ada harus ada yang masuk kayak gitu. Nah kalau kita nggak pernah mikirin kayak gitu.
Well, I mean, it makes me think that having values that you really believe in, right, or the joy, the family values, is a business plan in many ways. Because as you said, this is a value that so many people can relate to. Right, and because of that relation, that like I can empathize with you, I can feel what you're feeling. I can see your work makes me feel a certain way, right? And then seeing how you actually did it, as a family, really makes people really appreciate and have that connection with you. So I think that in a way that is a business plan. You're not thinking about it as a business plan, but value is a business plan. Can I ask the kids questions? Yeah, you guys should come to the spotlight here.
Berdiri aja, daripada nongkrong di bawah.
Okay, you guys can choose to answer,
Yeah.
right, or like one by one, whatever. But
Yeah.
do you consider yourself an artist?
I mean, kinda. I mean, I like to draw. I like to,
You should point to it.
as a hobby,
Mm.
Sometimes I draw every now and then if I'm bored. But I don't really consider myself like a full artist. Like,
Part-time job.
Part-time job.
Yeah, it could be a part time. It could be a side hustle.
Wait, how old are you?
15.
15. Okay, yeah. So yeah, you're like high school now.
Yeah.
How about you, Leah? Would you consider yourself an artist?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I do it when I'm bored, when I have nothing to do.
My God, it sounds like you when you're in quiet.
Yeah.
So bored. Let me make something.
Nothing else to do.
To entertain myself.
How about you, Aaron? You gotta put the camera on you now.
It's like part-time job gitu. Like part-time.
Hmm.
Kaya, it's not my chosen road.
Hmm.
But kaya, it's a thing I could do on the side.
Mm.
Like, I won't fully abandon it. It's still a part of me.
Ya, kalau mereka ditanya mau jadi artis nggak? Enggak.
Mm.
Yeah.
Iya, coba tanya mau jadi apa mereka.
But let me ask you this: like, did you know you were going to be artist?
At first, I was like, "Oh, I want to be an artist." 'Cause, I was so focused on drawing
Hmm.
growing up. Around
Ya.
Papin and Lamin,
Hmm.
other art. So yeah, at first I was like, I think I want to do this for a living.
Hmm.
Then as I go up, I realize it's really not that easy.
I want to be a comic book artist or a musician.
That's cool. You know, I wanted to be a comic book artist too.
Why didn't you? Hmm.
I saw more things that I could do besides being an illustrator for comic book. And also, like, I think we're all built differently, right?
Yeah.
Like, some of us are better with our hands, others
Yeah,
are better
yeah.
with the computer or making things, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I think the idea of using your hands, like to do something,
Yeah.
and I think really thinking about
Yeah.
what you're actually making it's really applicable, like whether or not you're an artist.
I still like creating, whether it's art or not. I still
Yeah.
like to create stuff.
This is back to you guys.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel insecure in the work that you're making?
Enggak, wah pede. Pernah nggak insecure? Enggak. Karena kita tahu orang lain ada yang nggak punya seperti yang kita punya. Like that feeling, the fun feeling, the joy feeling. Nggak semua orang bisa itu. Nggak semua orang bisa punya low expectation terhadap sesuatu kan. Gitu. Dan kita bisa memanage itu. Gitu.
And I think you also mentioned it before, the imperfection, right?
Yeah.
Which is
Iya.
people are insecure about imperfection.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's actually part of the work.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So I see this book. It's been sitting there
Yeah.
right here. You want to talk about it?
Pinot books.
Yes. You guys can actually see it better because you're looking at it from far away. This is the artwork on the cover is it for one of the commissioned work that you did?
Not commission
It's
work.
not commission work.
Yeah, it's a private project ya. Semuanya yang ada di sini karena yang commission work kita nggak bisa masukin kan.
I see. Okay, so
Gitu.
these are all personal
Yeah,
projects.
so, jadi ini semuanya personal project kita. Ada sekitar like I think 200 project di sini ya. Buku ini juga ada flipbooknya kan, karena kan mostly kan apa yang
There you go.
dikerjakan Pinot kan
So
memang
that's the
short
Childish
animation.
Gambino,
Yes.
right?
Childish
Flipbook.
Gambino.
It's really cool.
Flipbook. And then also ada karakter yang selalu dia bikin, Kluk, si ayam kecil
Kluk.
itu.
Yeah, can you get a close up of Kluk?
Kluk.
Look,
Kita pernah bikin 3D printingnya juga ya buat prototype toy-nya gitu, tapi belum diterusin lagi. Ada post-it, bentukannya ada yang post-it gini.
So why is the book like this? It kind of looks like a scrapbook.
Publisher-nya tuh mau apa ya? Pinot kan mengeksplor berbagai medium. Gitu. Dia ingin menggambarkan bahwa yang ada di buku ini pun dari sisi berbagai medium dengan penggunaan berbagai macam kertas.
Okay, so this book is titled Pinot.
Pinot, yes,
It's basically a celebration of the work
yes,
that you've been making.
yeah.
How did it come about? Did you get a publisher? Like, was it hard for you to find a publisher?
Jadi
No option.
publishernya itu it's Idea Books dari London. Mereka emang specialize di art and design book, entertainment, and mereka juga menjual buku-buku vintage and rare books. Nah, in 2019, I think, sebelum COVID itu, David kontak Pinot di Instagram. Like, hey Pinot, mau nggak karya-karya kamu dibikin buku?
Ini dari publishernya.
Dari, ya.
Okay.
And then dia nggak pernah baca DM-nya.
Too many.
You know, message dari David, even itu baru aku tahu like beberapa bulan lalu karena aku buka-buka Instagramnya dia karena aku harus repost story, right?
Oh, right, yeah.
Papin, kenapa ada message dari David gitu kan dari 2019 nggak pernah di
The message was from 2019,
Yes.
and you didn't actually sit until this year,
yeah
2014.
yeah
Oh my gosh.
and then 2023 mungkin David masih penasaran kali ya kontak aku DM di Instagram.
Okay.
Kita tertarik nih gitu untuk publish karya-karya Pinot dalam bentuk buku gitu kan. Oh oke, aku bilang gitu, oke, yuk, aku kasih alamat email, terus kita ngobrol di email, karena menurut mereka Pinot ini layak dilihat seluruh dunia karena Pinot ini world class, dia bilang gitu. Oke, habis itu kita meeting, kita putusin, mereka menyarankan ini buku just for fun aja, semuanya artnya Pinot gitu. Jadi kita sama-sama ngumpulin, collect bareng artnya, mana nih yang mau dimasukin buku, mana yang enggak gitu kan. Terus nanti formatnya apa, terus kalau bisa nunjukin behind the scene-nya, kayak gini, gimana dia create
That's an analog process before even getting to the computer to create the work.
Iya, dia harus bikin di grid, harus dihitung kan, gitu.
This was a poster, or what were you creating when you make this?
Ini printing awalnya buat di print.matrix.
So this is the dot matrix print.
Awalnya untuk di print.matrix kan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was actually designed for dot matrix printing. But then it's on an actual T-shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this book is available on the publisher's website.
In New York, ada di Dover Street Market, ada di Brooklyn, Head High.
Head High. Okay.
Yeah, Head High Brooklyn. And then di London, ada di Idea Books. Terus ada di Manchester juga. Di Paris ada. Jepang, Korea, Belgium, Finland, semua udah ada.
So Pinot is typing here that this was made with Mac Paint by default, which can be used for poster. Yeah, but yeah, it's interesting, right? Because it's just pixels.
Yeah.
So you can blow it up as big as you can.
Yeah.
I want to talk about where you are now, right? That I think some people may not be familiar that you had a stroke, right? But here you are having a book published. You created another work, right? Even after the stroke. So I want to just understand, what do you want to see, right? Is there any project that you want to work on? Is there any client, if that's what you're looking for, any client that you're thinking about? I just want to understand what are you thinking about, into the future?
Oh, having fun jawabannya.
So the answer is, I want to just continue to have fun. Yeah, I think that's the best way I could end this podcast. Really, I think that spirit of just having fun and just
Yeah.
enjoying it, and
Yeah.
people will see that and can
Yeah.
relate to that. Any last words?
Kalau sekarang, I think ada sedikit perspektif yang berbeda. Kalau dulu kita menunggu orang, kalau sekarang kita berani menawarkan diri. Kalau dulu mungkin kita bisa aktif bikin sesuatu, kalau sekarang karena situasi dan kondisi kan kita jadi nggak bisa terlalu aktif untuk offer something ke orang. Jadi sekarang kita lebih berani untuk kayak, yuk let's collaborate gitu. Kalau dulu kan lebih banyak orang yang ngajak kita. It's a new chapter.
It's a new chapter.
Yeah.
It's a book. Life is a book. You have just flipped to a new chapter.
Yeah.
And I think you just added having fun, hopefully inspire others.
Iya. Di halaman bukunya tuh ada di thank you-nya Pina. Thank you to everyone who inspires me to inspire others, who inspire others to inspire me. It is the circle of inspiration that keep us moving forward.
Well, with that, I want to thank you both for agreeing to actually have this conversation with me, and I want you guys too. You're like part of the crew, right? Yay! Thank you so much. I think I find this super inspiring myself.
And super unusual, maybe.
Very unusual, but that's why I started this podcast.
Yeah.
I think there's so many times we look at the work, of an artist or a designer or something. It's like, oh, that's so amazing, right? You want to understand like what drives them, like why are they making this thing, And then I see you guys, when I got to know you the first time, you were already having a lot of followers, and then you were still making, more and more amazing work. So something works for you guys, something works and something relates to so many people that everyone can relate to your work. So I feel like I learned a thing or two about, what is that secret sauce from you, but I think we all function differently, we all have our lives, but I think this has been really interesting for me because it's unusual.
Yeah.
So thanks everyone for listening in. As usual, I try to get together and have a candid conversation with people who inspire me, a lot of trailblazers out there. So I hope you stay tuned, subscribe if you like what you're seeing, and share the love. It's all about having fun.
Yes.
Right? And having, and actually, try to get your family to enjoy what you're doing as well. I think that's a beautiful message. So thank you so much. I'm John Kudos, and I'll see you next time.